No need to come, huh? Okay. Shall we start now? Okay. So, can somebody summarize what we learned in the last class? I would like someone to open up. So, we are discussing about the periodicity of discrete sinusoidal waveforms. Okay. So, we are here. I hope you can recall. We are talking about sinusoidal waveforms like omega naught. Omega naught. What is this? This is the continuous time sinusoidal signals. Okay, continuous time signals. So naturally, when you introduce a pi, 2 pi as a phase shift, it's more like you are going for one full rotation. So naturally, the time period is now going to be 2 pi by omega naught. So when I'm going to bring in 2 pi inside along with omega naught, I have to divide it by omega naught in order to get T naught. So that's T naught equal to 2 pi by omega naught is the basic idea, time period. So for example, when omega naught is equal to 2000 pi, what is this? This is angular frequency, okay? So that's going to be 2000 pi. So if that is the case, what is the corresponding T naught? T naught is the time taken for one 2 pi revolution. Okay, whatever its time is going to take for one 2 pi revolution. So this there is 2000 pi there. So easily you can visualize 2 pi by 2000 pi is going to give you 1 millisecond. So it will take 1 millisecond for the waveform to traverse what? 2 pi. Okay. Then totally the frequency here is 2000 pi. So naturally it may take 1 millisecond for the waveform to traverse one cycle. Okay. For traversing one cycle it takes 2000. Okay. So what is the corresponding then cyclical frequency? Then for this particular frequency it's going to be 1000 hertz. Okay. 1000 cycles per second. So be very clear about all this. Okay, what is angular omega naught, what is T naught, and what is S naught? Can somebody tell me what is omega naught 2000 pi indicates here? What is this omega naught 2000 pi? How you define it? Two thousand pi means what exactly? In a second, in 1 second. Okay, in 1 second, the waveform is going to take. Okay, see for one full revolution, how many pi? We have 2 pi. Then in 1 second, this waveform is going to take 2000 pi rotations. Okay, so in that case, you can understand how fast it is. Okay, in that case, for one cycle, what is the corresponding time period it takes? So from that, you have to compute it is 1 millisecond. You understand? So then in that case, F naught is going to be equal to 1 by this T naught. That's going to be 1000 cycles per second is the basic idea. Okay, so 1000 cycles per second. So is it clear, the idea? So once you are clear with this, then you can move ahead and you can compute values like this. F naught is going to be equal to 250 kilohertz. Then T naught is going to be equal to 250 into 10 power 3. That's going to be 4 microseconds. Okay, is it clear? 4 microseconds, that's the idea. Anybody having difficulty in understanding this? What is this 4 microseconds indicates to you? Can somebody tell me? What is this 4 microseconds tells you? What information it is giving to you?
Time taken for one revolution.
Time taken for this waveform. Okay, a waveform with a cyclical frequency of 250 kilohertz will take 4 microseconds for that waveform to complete one cycle. Okay, that's the idea. So then that's what we learned in the last class. Then followed by, I introduced you to something called the discrete sinusoidal waveform, wherein you will be sampling the continuous time in a periodic way, in a what you call in a uniform way. That time you call it as a TS. It's called sampling time. Sampling time. So in that case, I can sample my waveforms. So now I'm going to get a new term for the angular frequency. It's going to coupled, okay, with the original continuous time frequency term represented by this W naught. TS is sampling time, and N is the index. Okay, index for the sample. So and this pi indicates a phase shift. Now I got a new term. This I can couple this omega naught dot TS, and I'm going to end up in the discrete frequency term like this. This is a bigger omega naught, they call it, okay, capital omega naught. This one they call it as discrete frequency. In some books, they may employ this omega naught for this continuous frequency. In some books, they employ this for discrete frequency. Maybe you can check with it. In some books, omega naught, this one is not, this W naught. Omega naught, I call it, okay? It is omega naught, you call it as what? Analog here, continuous frequency here. But in some books, it may be interchanged also. Maybe you have to refer to it. Okay, carefully look into it. So now we look at this x of n. Now I got a x of n. This is a discrete signal I got. Okay, this is a discrete signal I'm interested in. Now if you look at this term, there is an amplitude, there is a phase shift, and there is something called discrete frequency now. No more it will be called as omega naught like this. It is called as omega naught here. And this is the point is, this is going to get multiplied by the Ts here. That's the key point. The sampling time is going to influence this. Okay, so naturally, I can sample my signals at a particular rate. This rate I'm calling it as the sampling frequency. Sampling frequency is 1 by Ts, for example. Okay, so I can sample at a particular rate. So if I do that, I'm going to get things like this. Okay? So 2 pi f naught Ts, then Fs equal to 1 by Ts, and therefore this discrete frequency is going to be nothing but 2 pi into, instead of f naught, I'm going to keep f naught. Instead of Ts, I'm going to put 1 by Fs. Okay, so this is more like a relative frequency. That's very important. Okay, it's a relative frequency with respect to the sampling frequency. The relative frequency with respect to the sampling frequency. That's the idea. So this idea is important. Okay, now we'll move ahead. So we also took some examples. For example, a 2 kilohertz signals, if you are going to sample at 0.1 millisecond, that means 10 power minus 4 second. Okay, then what you end up in, the sampling frequency will be what? 1 by this Ts. That's going to be 10 kilohertz, 10 power 4 hertz. Okay, the sampling frequency. What is sampling frequency? Sampling frequency is 10 power 4. Okay, it is 10 kilohertz. So what is the original signal frequency? It's 2 kilohertz. So you are sampling a 2 kilohertz signal. That means 2000 cycles per second signal with 10 power 4 hertz. That means every 0.1 millisecond you are going to acquire one sample. That's the idea. Every 0.1 millisecond you are going to acquire one sample. Understand? That's the idea. Therefore, the discrete frequency is going to be given by 2 pi dot f naught by fs. That is nothing but 2 pi by 5 radians. So that's the speed with which you are rotating. Okay, 2 pi by 5 radians. So now, so it means what 2 pi by 5 radians means? So that's a discrete frequency. Okay, it's a relative frequency. So 2 pi by 5. It's a relative frequency is what we are talking about. So now let's move ahead. Yeah, we are talking about these two waveforms. x1t is equal to e power j 2 pi f1t. That's nothing but e power j omega 1t. What is this? This is continuous time. Continuous time. This is also continuous time. So I have taken two waveforms. In what way they are differing? What way they are differing? They are differing in terms of frequency. Okay, in terms of frequency. This is f1 frequency, this is f2 frequency. Normally for continuous time, we will use a small f like this. That will be better. Okay, small f, capital F cyclical frequency for discrete time frequency. Okay, if you use a small f, it will be alright. So this is omega for continuous time frequency. I have two different frequencies. Now the key point here is f1 will not be equal to f2 when it comes to continuous time. So these two are two distinct signals. Two distinct, in fact, they have their own unique property. They are different. Okay, you can see very clearly based on the frequency, one signal may look like this, another signal may look like this. Okay, two different frequencies. So easily you can distinguish waveforms with respect to frequency changes when it comes to continuous time domain. Okay, continuous time domain. But as soon as you are entering into something called a sampler, using a switch, you are going to switch on and off, and you're going to end up these kind of samples, you will end up in trouble. Okay, there is a possibility that, as I told you yesterday's class, you're going to have two different discrete time domain signals, okay, with a differing frequency, discrete frequency. One is bigger omega 1, bigger omega 2, capital omega 1, capital omega 2. Two different frequencies. But there is a possibility that, okay, at some point of time, for example, this omega 1 signal, this frequency will be equal to omega 2, the bigger signal, that is capital omega 2, that is the second signal, okay, with the corresponding discrete frequency plus 2k pi. If I add 2k pi with that, I'll be ending up in the original frequency. So it's going to be a tricky situation for you, primarily because this omega 2 is completely different. But when I'm going to add it up with 2k pi, I'm going to end up in this particular thing. So this x21 will be equal to, okay, x1 when there is a phase shift of this much, okay, 2k pi n. Okay, you understand? So this is a fundamental problem when it comes to discrete frequency. There are two signals with differing frequencies, okay, but with the corresponding phase shift of 2k pi, okay, there is a possibility that you may end up in waveform like this, x1. So x2n is going to be equal to x1. But this one is having a frequency of omega 1, this one is having a frequency. So this is going to happen when there is a this 2k pi, okay, kind of shift. So if that's going to be the problem, then we need to be worried. Okay, we should be careful in working with this kind of signals. So that's the thing we are going to learn now. Okay, so to understand this, see here, I'm plugging in the values. Omega 1 equal to omega 2 plus 2k pi. So if I put that, I'm going to get this. What is this term? This you know very well. For every k value, k becoming an integer, e power j 2 pi is what? What is e power j 2 pi? What is the magnitude of it?
1, sir.
It's going to be equal to 1. You know that because it's going to be cos 2 pi plus j sin 2 pi. Cos 2 pi is going to be 1. This is 0. Therefore, this value is always 1. So naturally, this term is going to become 1, and you're going to end up in e power j omega 1 n. That is why I'm saying that this kind of an addition, 2k pi addition, is going to put you in trouble. So you're going to end up in this kind of a situation. Okay, so this can happen in discrete time domain. Okay, so in that case, x of t is going to be equal to, I'm going to take a waveform something like this. X of t is equal to a cos 2 pi f naught t plus 5. Okay, let us take it is in the continuous time domain. Okay, again, all f naught is small f naught. So I can write this waveform in terms of Euler identity, a by 2 e power j pi e power j 2 pi f naught t, then a by 2 e power minus j pi e power minus j 2 pi f naught t. Anybody having difficulty in understanding this term? Everybody with me here? Anybody having difficulty in visualizing these two expressions clearly? What does this exactly tells you? It is the Euler identity. Cos j omega t. Remember that. The complex mathematical part when we are discussing, I mentioned about this. It's going to be e power j omega t plus e power minus j omega t divided by 2 is what I said. I hope you can recall that term, cos omega t. Okay, cos omega t is nothing but this term. So naturally, cos j omega t, therefore I'm going to write this term as an expression like this. So this e power j pi, I can take it out. Okay? So normally, this particular term, this normally you call it as combinedly, you call it as the phasor. This is a phasor. This you will be learning in network theory, in your, electric networks you are learning. So in that you will be learning this term. There is a magnitude and there is a phase. Okay, these two combined you call it as a phasor. A phasor representation. And this one is the corresponding frequency component rotating. This one is rotating. This is constant. This is rotating. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to rotate this vector. Okay, so rotating vector or rotating phasor they call it. So this is rotating at a frequency of what? F naught. Okay, this phasor is rotating at a frequency of f naught. Now, if you represent this particular term, okay, and the corresponding discrete time domain will look like this. Because j pi, capital omega naught, okay, capital omega naught discrete domain, and then this is n is a sampling index. Okay, the waveform can be represented like. Anybody having difficulty in understanding this? Can I repeat? these three expressions. Is it clear for you? Can you see what is the expression clearly? Can somebody tell me what are these three expressions? What are these three expressions? Gautam, can you see this expression clearly? Tell me what are these three expressions? Can you just go through the slide and tell me what are these? What are these three expressions, man? These expressions are quite important. Okay, what are these three expressions? I am writing the cos waveform, okay, in terms of the Euler identity. I hope you can recall that. E power j omega t plus e power minus j omega t divided by 2. That is a cos j omega t2. Okay. So naturally, I am writing that term as e power j pi. There is a pi term here, e power j pi. And this term is nothing but e power j omega means 2 pi f naught, 2 pi f naught t, a by 2 e power minus j pi, e power minus j 2 pi f naught. Is it clear? So once I write this, you can clearly see there are two terms. One is a by 2 e power j pi, another one is a by 2 e power minus j pi. So this pi is a constant, okay, it's a constant. So naturally it is a complex term, okay, it's going to be a complex term. And there is an amplitude a by 2, okay, and this is in fact the angle, okay, this is in fact the angle you are talking about, initial angle. If pi is equal to 0, you are going to start your rotating phasor, okay, at this point when pi is equal to 0 with a corresponding value a by 2, okay, magnitude. And then if this pi is some pi, so for example there's some angle pi, then you are going to start from there. Okay, the rotating phasor is going to start from this vector is going to rotate at a particular frequency f naught. Okay, that's the idea. It's going to rotate at a particular frequency. Okay, so now if that is the case, I can represent the corresponding frequencies, okay, for this particular waveform like this in a domain called as frequency domain. Originally, if you look at this waveform, okay, this is a waveform like this, okay, called cosine waveform. In time domain, it may be looking like this, okay, like this. Starts from 1 and it goes like this, cosine waveform. But now in the frequency domain, if you look at that look at the particular cosine waveform, it is looking like this. What do you infer from this particular graph? Anybody? What do you infer from this graph? What kind of information you are getting from this graph? This graph? Yeah, please. Hey, open your mouth and talk, discuss, man. Yeah.
Sir, periodicity is inferred, sir.
Periodicity, okay. Anything else you are inferring? What is? Can you tell something more about this graph? What you are trying to graph here? What is x-axis? What is y-axis? Just try to explain about the graph a bit. Anyone? Anybody? This is, see, for this signal, I am drawing the graph. Okay. So if you look at this signal, there are two terms. One is e power j 2 pi f naught t, another one is e power minus j 2 pi f naught t. There are two frequencies, f naught t minus f naught. Okay. So in that case, I am trying to represent those two frequencies, f naught and minus f naught plus f naught. Okay. And at those frequencies, I have an amplitude of a by 2. A by 2. Okay. So naturally, I need to, if you mark this magnitude, it is a by 2, it is a by 2. So I am drawing a graph between frequency and magnitude, first graph. Okay. So there are negative frequencies here, minus f0, and there is a positive frequency plus f0. So with a magnitude of a by 2, a by 2. Is it clear? First graph. So that's what this expression tells. So I am moving on from time domain to something called a frequency domain. So this is the frequency domain expression of a cosine waveform. Any cosine waveform will look like this. Any cosine waveform will take up a shape like this. Will have a frequency component like this. So all cosine waveforms, if somebody is going to ask you, so you can tell that here comfortably that cosine waveform frequency is going to be some f0. This is going to be f0. This is going to be minus f0. This f0 will vary. Okay, and this magnitude is a by 2. This magnitude is a. So this is the magnitude. Y-axis is always magnitude. X-axis is frequency. Now this representation I'll be calling it as frequency domain representation. So you need to understand clearly, very clearly this point, because we are now switching little our gears little. Okay, we are slightly moving from one domain to another domain. So basically we are talking about some a cos k omega t sine of a signal only in time domain. And in time domain it's going to be looking like this. Okay, the signal is going to be like this, time domain signal, this cosine waveform. Okay. So this is the waveform I'm talking about. At t equal to 0, it's going to cross like this. Based on this pi, it's going to cross the t equal to 0. This is my amplitude. This is my time domain representation. But what happens in the frequency domain representation? I am looking at the frequency only. Okay, if I write this expression in terms of the Euler identity, I am going to get a by 2, a by 2, a by 2. At two frequencies. What are they? f0 minus f0. Okay, this one I am calling it as 2 pi f0. Okay, so in that case I'll be getting these two expressions. This omega angular frequency I can write it as 2 pi f0. Therefore I will be getting something like that. So this is the magnitude. Okay, magnitude is a by 2. Y-axis is magnitude. X-axis is frequency. Can somebody tell me what is this exactly? Again, repeat what I said. Can you understand this, what I said right now? Anybody? Kalichalvan? Funny Kumar?
Sir, could you please explain how we converted from time to frequency domain one, sir?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, because this is important step. So when I pose you a question at some point, I'm trying to check whether you have understood or not. Okay, there is nothing wrong in not understanding. Rather than being silent, if you open up and tell that I don't understand this, it will be better for you to follow the lecture later on quite comfortably. Otherwise, you will miss the bus and you will feel completely, confused. Okay, you will not be understanding this. So always essential to spend some time in the basics. That's why I'm putting a lot of effort in the basics part. Okay, once you understand the basics somewhat clearly, okay, maybe you have to work also. From your end, you should read, and also all those you need to do. The lecture alone is not sufficient, but once you understand something in the class, you can improvise. Okay, you can go and refer, and you can little bit go deeper. All this you can do. But that's why I'm asking you again and again and again whether you have understood or not. Okay, look at this case. So who said? Can you repeat? Gautama.
Sir, Kalichalvan, sir.
Kalichalvan. Yeah, Kalichalvan. Listen, Kalichalvan carefully. So this is a cos 2 pi f0 t plus pi. Do you understand this? Say yes.
Yes, sir. Understood.
This expression it's comfortable for you, is it not? So once you understand this expression, you can clearly see that this particular cosine waveform frequency is f0. It means it's going to take some f0 cycles per second. You understand? So with a phase shift of pi, Now I am representing this signal, okay, with an Euler identity. What is Euler identity says? Cos omega t, how we can write? Yeah, e power j omega t plus e power minus j omega t divided by 2. That's the Euler identity. You agree?
Yes, sir. Agreed.
So naturally, I'm writing that a cos 2 pi f naught t plus pi as e power j omega t plus e power minus j omega t divided by 2. Okay. So then I have for these pi terms also. Therefore, e power j 2 pi f naught t plus pi I'm going to get now that j pi is going to come out. Can you understand this expression now?
Yes,
This
sir.
expression, is it clear this expression? This
Yes, sir.
expression is having 2 e power j 2 pi f naught t. This is here, there is one term here, there is another term here. One is plus f naught, another one is minus f naught. Did you see that? Can you see it clearly?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, if somebody is going to ask you, what is the frequency domain representation of this time domain signal, then what do you need to say? The thing is, you have to say like this. In the frequency domain representation, instead of time as the x-axis, we are going to have frequency as the x-axis. And here the amplitude is A, but here the amplitude is going to split between the two frequencies. One is A by 2, another one is another A by 2. You understand? So this is the magnitude part. Now can you understand what I'm saying? Based on
Yes,
the
sir.
expression. Yeah, based on the previous expression. Yeah.
Sir, then in the
Yeah.
equation T naught is there, no, sir?
Yeah, that will come. That is very good. That's a good doubt. So now that I'm going to come to that one. So that is what important is. So now I have written only the magnitude part. Now what about the phase angle? So that is j pi. There is j pi. Look at this. There is j pi minus j. So that in fact will be plotting in a different way, something called as phase plot. Okay, this is a phase plot. So there are two plots involved in any frequency spectrum analysis. Okay, one you call it as a magnitude spectrum, another one is you call it as a phase spectrum. So in the phase spectrum, clearly you are seeing that for the first frequency, if not, there is a phase associated that is positive pi. Okay, e power j pi. So that is represented like this pi. For this f naught, this pi. Okay, and for this minus f naught, I'm going to have minus pi here. Can you see it clearly? It's minus j pi. So that pi is going to be in the negative direction. So this is the phase spectrum of any cosine waveform. Phase spectrum. So combinedly, you call these two spectrums as a frequency spectrum analysis of a given signal. Okay. So any waveform you can do this. Later on we'll see, but right now get a feel of this. We'll be hereafter moving from one domain to another domain. Mapping from time domain to frequency domain mapping happens. But in the frequency domain, you need to have two graphs. Okay, we need to have the phase also. What is that? Frequency versus magnitude, first one. The second one, frequency versus phase angle. Two plots. Okay, this is pi, f naught, and this is f naught here. It's going to be minus pi, minus f naught. Okay, f naught and minus f naught. This is a phase. So you understand this first clearly. Okay, based on this in fact we are deriving it only from the Euler identity. That's why I spent some time on that. You remember Euler identity. Go back again if you want to understand this properly. Understand the complex variables clearly by going back to the mathematical lecture which I have taken. Okay, so Euler identity you can understand from this. Now let us move. So this is what in fact I said. Now here is a key point. If there is the question that I am raising right now is there a one-to-one correspondence between each complex exponential signal xt or xn and the corresponding frequency representation? It's a key point. Okay. For each complex exponential signal, it means what? You can generate any x of t with varying frequencies, okay, and there will be one unique representation for it in the corresponding frequency spectrum, which I right now I have projected to you. Now, what about the case of xn? Xn, it will be a problem. The spectrum there is a possibility that the spectrum will be common for few frequencies. We'll understand that. So let us try to understand. The question is whether we can find two sinusoids, okay, that have two different frequencies and yet to be identical in time. Okay, it's possible. Can you understand the question? What is that we are trying to convey here? There are two sinusoids, okay, but the two different frequencies. but yet to be identical in time domain. Is it possible? When you sample, the answer is when you sample. Not,
Yes, sir. By phase shift, they
yeah.
can be possible.
And what?
By phase shifting, they can be possible, no, sir. No, only we saw.
Ah, that's right. That is one. That is one point. That is one point. Another one is by not sampling the signal in a proper way. Okay, there is a possibility that you may end up in a different signal in the time domain for different frequencies. Okay, the signal may be having different frequencies. By not sampling it properly, you may end up in different waveforms. Okay, let us see that how we can understand it. So that's what the idea is. So the same the thing you said, x1 of t is going to be this. Okay, x2 of t is this. X1 of n is this. X2 of n is this. This is continuous time domain. Remember always, this is discrete time domain. This is 2 pi f1. This is 2 pi f2. This is bigger omega. This is bigger omega. Okay, is it clear? Now, if I put this inside, we have learned just now that this is going to be the same. Okay, so I'm going to have this kind of a problem. So I'm going to have this omega 1 here. This is minus omega 1. Okay, I'm going to end up in a signal something like this. They all can have the same samples like this. There is a possibility. That's a possibility. They all have to enjoy the same samples. Because that's a problem with respect to what? That's primarily because of the sampling rate. Okay, because the omega is nothing but the continuous time omega multiplied by sampling time. This sampling time may pose you this problem. Okay, so between two sampling instants, okay, for example, I have a signal like this. There are some samples I'm taking. Always there is a possibility that before I take a sample, always there is a possibility the signal can go for one more rotation inside. Okay, one more cycle inside. If the signal frequency is high, I may wrongly sample it, and there may I missed this particular point. In fact, they call it as this kind of thing as aliasing problem. See this graph? Can you see this clearly? Look at this. I'm sampling at this point. 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 I'm sampling. Now look at this. These two signals are differing by some k2 pi angles. Okay, k2 pi phase shift. Because of that, when I look at this sample at the end, or final after sampling and then doing all processing, I'm seeing this only. Finally, I'm seeing this. I may not be knowing exactly which one of these two signals I'm trying to represent. You understand? Because the sampling is not sufficient for this particular signal. Okay. So naturally, there are two signals. They can have same time domain representation. The samples can represent either this signal or this signal. So this kind of a problem, they call it as aliasing problem. Aliasing problem. Okay. Can somebody tell me what I said right now? What is this problem I'm talking about? You can have two frequencies. This may be omega 1. This signal frequency is omega 2. But they enjoy the same time domain representation primarily because the discrete samples are one and the same for both. Why? The sampling frequency is very less for this blue signal. That's why I'm getting some delayed samples. See, between two samples, look at this. Between this sample and this sample, this signal has already gone for almost 1.5 cycles. So I'm missing that information. You understand that point clearly. So between this sample and this sample, look at this time. Only I have traversed some around lesser distance when comparing to this sample. I have traveled more in this particular sample. So naturally, I am missing some information, and thereby, when you are finally reconstructing, I don't know whether this signal is like this, okay, or it is like this, okay, this kind of a signal, the blue color, okay, the blue color. So I don't know that. So that's the problem when it comes to what do you call the aliasing problem. So that's what I mentioned here by this term. So for omega 1, it is like this, minus omega 1 is like this, and omega 1 plus 2 pi. I'm going to have one waveform here, no? That's frequency. That's also like this. So all these are going to have the kind of samples like this. Only samples. I'm talking not continuous waveform. I'm talking about samples. Okay. So in the frequency domain representation, you may end up in the same spectrum for two different waveforms, but improperly sampled. okay, improperly sampled, so you may end up in the same waveform. Okay, so spectrum may be like so, but this can be avoided. This problem can be avoided if you are going to maintain the frequency of the waveform within this limit, okay, minus pi to plus pi. Here you can have all frequencies, unique frequencies. But once you move out of this and you're going to choose some frequencies here, you may end up in the problem like this. So here all these frequencies within this region, you get every bigger omega 1 is not equal to bigger omega 2. Okay, but once you are outside, there is a possibility omega 1 may be equal to omega 2. That's primarily because of this reason. Okay, that is why you have to understand this expression. It's a super important expression of today's class. Try to assimilate this expression in your mind, memorize it, don't forget. What is this statement? Can somebody tell me clearly? What is the statement? Clearly tell me. What is this? You understand it from me? Anyone from the class? There is a frequency 0.2 pi. Okay. Whether 0.2 pi is within our range, minus pi to plus pi? Yes. 0.2 pi. Okay. It is within our range. Fine. Now you add, okay, omega naught plus some k2 pi. What do you end up in? You may end up in, okay, all these values. K is equal to 1, k equal to 2, k equal to 3, all those you plug in, you may end up in all these values. 1.8 pi, okay, 2.8 pi, all those values. Okay, to 2k pi. So it's the same fashion, minus 0.2 plus 2k pi, they're going to end up in different values. We're getting the point for different values of k. K is an integer, so it can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. All those values are feasible. Okay, so we can have all kinds of values, addition of 2, 4, 6 for this 0.2. Likewise, minus 2, minus 4, minus all those values possible for this also. Okay, so all these you have to understand. K can be minus, K can be plus. Okay, all these. So if that is the case, for all these frequencies, the same waveform is going to repeat again and again and again. Okay, so that's the problem with the what do you call discrete domain sinusoidal signals. But here is the case. Who is that? Somebody is talking. Please switch off and mute in your end. Okay, so here is the pointer. So continuous time domain signals, you have unique frequencies for the entire range of minus infinity plus infinity. But discrete time frequencies, you are going to have the restriction that the frequency should be between minus pi to plus pi. Okay, that's a big takeaway point from this. When you are going to move away from the plus pi or minus pi frequencies, always there is a problem of aliasing you may end up in. Okay, so you have to stick on within the minus pi to plus pi, because the signal is going to be for minus 2.2 plus 2.2 pi also you're going to get the same value for 0.2 pi. Okay, likewise minus 1.8 pi also the same value. Okay, the minus 1.8 pi also be the same value. So you have to understand that clearly. Okay. Now we'll look at this case. So that's one important takeaway point. Then I have my signal like this, fine. This is my continuous time waveform. 2 pi k is already I told you. Okay, so you end up in 2 pi by omega naught pi k for any t greater than 0. That's very important. So for continuous time domain, it's not an issue at all. T can be anything. So all sinusoidal signals will be periodic, and you can compute the value of t always. So absolutely all sinusoidal signals are periodic. Okay, because you know it is cyclic. Okay, there will be a period for every cycle. Therefore, you can compute the cycles and you can compute the time period for all continuous time sinusoidal signals. No issues at all. Okay, this time period can be 0.2, 0.1, any value you can get. But the problem comes when you are moving to discrete time domain. So periodicity with respect to discrete time domain comes primarily because now you are going to talk about samples. So look at this case. I have this periodicity for defined for continuous time domain. Now I'm going to take the discrete time domain signal. What happens? I'm now defining it in terms of index, discrete index. So there will be some n. When you add that n, okay, some capital N, the signal is going to repeat. That's what I'm trying to convey here. Okay, for the continuous time periodic waveform, how you are defining capital T? For every capital T, the cycle is going to repeat. That's what you are saying for continuous time domain. The same manner for discrete time domain, for every capital, for example, capital N. So in this case, can somebody tell me what is the corresponding period? Signal is going to repeat like this. What is the period for this signal? Can somebody tell me? Just an approximate guess.
2 pi.
No. You have to, 2 pi is a continuous time domain you are thinking. Okay. But I'm looking at now a discrete waveform. Okay, good. What you are thinking is right.
N, sir.
Capital
N.
Capital N is a period, but can you tell it from this graph? 1,
Infinity, sir.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For every 6 samples, the same graph repeats. You understand? The same samples is going to repeat again. So that's what I'm trying to convey here. You understand now what is periodicity in the discrete time domain? In the discrete time domain, we are thinking in terms of the samples. N is the number of samples. Capital T is a time there in the continuous time domain. Time taken for one cycle. That is for continuous time domain. But here no more we'll be talking about cycles, but we'll be talking about number of samples that's going to repeat again. So then if this signal is going to be equal to this signal, what is the corresponding idea? You add 2 pi k with a phase, what happens? You're going to end up in like this. Okay, so then naturally, this is going to be, I'm going to equate, see these two terms are common here. Only 2 pi k is equal to this term, then only these two are equal. Therefore, n is going to be, number of samples is going to be equal to 2 pi k by the frequency, discrete frequency. It's a big idea. This point is very super important. But this will work out, n will work out, the number of samples. Whether number of samples can be 0.2, that's the question before you. Whether the number of samples can be 0.2.
No, sir. Samples are discrete.
Discrete domain, okay? The n should be an integer. That's a very key point. Okay, it's an integer. Okay, there may not exist k so that 2 pi by this omega is an integer. Always there is a problem. See, for all sinusoidal signals, in terms of continuous time domain, I said they are all periodic. But in the discrete domain, because of the sampling nature, there is a possibility you may end up in a particular k that will not give you an integer for you. You understand the point? Super important. So for example, look at this omega. I'm giving the bigger omega, the discrete frequency, as 37 by 11 pi. If I'm going to give this, what is the corresponding samples, the periodicity of the discrete time domain? N is going to be 2 pi k by bigger omega. That's what we are written here. Is it not? So how we have arrived at this one? Can somebody tell me this expression? Is it clear from this expression clearly how I have written that? I'm equating this with this. Periodicity means what? Periodicity is what? A cos bigger omega naught n plus pi should be equal to A cos bigger omega naught n plus some capital N samples plus pi. I'm looking for this expression. Okay, I'm trying to equate these two. So when I'm trying to equate these two, what I'm doing? I'm taking A cos omega 1 pi plus 2 pi k. This I'm doing. Okay, you understand? So because of that, what happens? What is the expression I ended up in? That's like this. Okay. Because of that, what happens? So I'm equating these two and I'm equating this. So 2 pi k will be equal to, that's the expression you landed up with. You agree? Can you see it clearly now? So this is going to be equal to this. Omega naught n plus pi plus omega naught n capital. Now these two terms are common. These two terms are common. Therefore, when this will be equal, this will be equal when 2 pi k will be equal to bigger omega. But the n is going to be divided by 2 pi k divided by. So always there is an integer k which will not give you an integer n. Okay, there is a possibility, always. Remember that. That's a lurking problem in discrete time periodicity. Now look at this, n I have identified, the frequency is given, n is divided by 2 pi k by bigger omega, 2 pi k by 37 by 11 pi, I am getting 22 by 37 k. So if you look at these two cases, you can, for a k value equal to 1, I can get, for a k value equal to 27 for example, I will be getting, for a k value, see I will be getting n naught is equal to 22 for a k value equal to 37. Okay, so for example, if I put 1, I will be getting 22 by 37. Okay, so only for a k value of 37, I am getting the integer number 22. To plug in all the values, see, for k equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any value plug in, you will always get a what? A kind of a fraction here. But as soon as you plug in 22 for k, okay, you get a k for k equal to 37. As soon as you plug in, you get 22 by 37 into 37. You will get 22. So this particular signal is going to repeat for every 22 samples. Okay, for every 22 samples, if you count 22 samples after, again the same waveform is going to repeat. That's the idea. The same manner, you can look at for omega equal to bigger omega equal to 2, it is going to be 2 pi by 2k, and it's going to be pi k. Whether for any value of integer k, this number will become an integer. Is the n value? Can somebody tell me? You understand what I'm asking? N will never become an integer, primarily because this number is an irrational number. This is a decimal points, it will keep on going. Okay, so you cannot find an integer k which can give you an integer for n. So n will not be periodic at all for this case. This is not periodic. Likewise, when the bigger omega is equal to square root of 2 pi, again there also 2 pi by omega, 2 pi by square root of 2 pi k, and there also you will not be getting, if you divide this, you get square root of 2k. Square root of 2 is again irrational, 4.414, it will keep on going, and therefore you never get periodic. You understand? So this is a super important idea of today's class. Okay, so look at this case. So aliasing, I said, look at this. Now we'll take some more examples and see this. So this is a slide I have taken from Professor Deepa Guntur from University of Toronto. The excellent slides. University of Toronto. Okay. Deepa, you can visit their website also. He has done a lot of work in this area. Okay. So look at this. Omega equal to pi by 6. So I can write it as pi into 1 by 6. Therefore, this is my signal cos bigger omega. Okay, this is bigger omega n. This bigger omega is pi by 6. Got it? Therefore, capital N, the samples are going to be 2 pi k by bigger omega. 2 pi k by pi into 1 by 6. Is it all right? Therefore, it's 12k. So for k equal to 1, I can get n naught equal to. So you can clearly see the waveform for every 12 samples. It's going to repeat. Then what is this k indicates? This k is now talking about the envelope. In the original continuous time domain, it takes exactly 1 cycle for these 12 samples to cover. Okay, that's the meaning of this k. Okay, so now take one more example. You will understand clearly. So then we see here, this omega is 8 pi by 31. In fact, this is bigger omega I'm using. See, notation is changing. Okay. What is this then? 8 pi by 31. I can write it as pi into 8 by 31. Therefore, x of pi is cos bigger omega n. This omega is 8 pi by 31. Therefore, that is n is equal to 2 pi k by bigger omega. Therefore, 2 pi k by a pi into 8 by 31, it is 31 by 4k. Now, for k equal to 4, I can get an integer value. Now, it means that in the original continuous time domain, I need to have 4 cycles, okay, of waveform, which comprises of totally how many samples? 31 samples. K is equal to 4 here. Okay, 31 samples of waveform. This 31 samples will be repeating again and again in the discrete time domain. That's the idea. Okay, the fundamental period is 31. Okay. Same idea for this one. When cos xn is equal to cos n by 6, definitely, what is the corresponding omega? Cos omega n. Omega is equal to 1 by 6. 1 by 6 means 2 pi k by 1 by 6, 12 pi k. So this will never become an integer, primarily because pi is an irrational number. So this does not exist. N does not exist, not periodic. Anybody having difficulty understanding this? These 3 expressions. Can I repeat anything? Everybody clear with this idea? These three problems. You can refer to Deepa Guntur, University of Toronto. Okay, so yeah. Now look at this. So now here are the key points that you need to take down. The first one, a discrete time sinusoid is periodic only if its frequency is a rational number. Okay, it is a rational number. Discrete time sinusoids whose frequencies are separated by an integer multiple of 2 pi are identical. Is also the same. Okay, 2 pi n we have put and we got the same waveform again and again. The idea we got. Okay, but the frequencies are indistinguishable. The key point. So what we need to do? We need to operate the sinusoid within the range of minus pi to plus pi in order to get distinguishable. In order to differentiate frequencies exactly and to locate the frequencies, to identify the frequencies, we need to operate within minus pi to plus pi. In that case, what is the corresponding cyclical frequency? Cyclical frequency is equal to what? Omega equal to 2 pi f. And if I am going to operate omega from minus pi to plus pi, the cyclical frequency I will be operating between what? Minus 1 by 2 to plus 1. Okay. That's the cyclical frequency. You getting the point clearly what I'm saying? Omega I can operate between minus pi to plus pi. Okay. Omega is equal to 2 pi f. F is equal to what? Omega by 2 pi. So if omega equal to minus pi, I substitute here, what do I get? I get minus 1 by 2. If omega equal to plus pi, what do you get? I get 1 by 2. Therefore, cyclical frequency for discrete time domain, you need to operate between minus 1 by 2 to plus 1 by 2. It's a very important point. Any sequence resulting from a sinusoid with a frequency greater than pi or greater than 1 by 2 is identical sequence obtained from a sinusoidal frequency with the frequency less than pi is called as aliasing problem. That's what k2 pi I said. If you add k2 pi plus or minus, you're going to end up in the same way. The highest rate of oscillation in a discrete time domain is attained at omega equal to pi or omega equal to pi, or equivalently f equal to 1 by 2 or minus. Is it clear? Remember this. So we are talking about f. Capital F is what? Cycles per samples. And the capital omega is what? Radians per sample. So this comes from Fi Fs omega by Fs. Okay. This is the capital F is the discrete frequency. Okay, F by Fs. This is nothing but omega. This is also discrete frequency, angular. But that is but radians per sample. Cycles per sample. Take a deep look at this expression very clearly. The difference, capital F, capital omega, small f, small omega. How these two are continuous. By introducing the samples, the sampling frequency, samples per second, you are converting that into this. Okay, this is cyclical frequency for the continuous time, angular frequency for the continuous time. This is angular frequency for discrete time. This is the cyclical frequency for the discrete frequency. Cycles per sample, radians per sample. Okay, that's cycle. So take a deeper look. So if I'm looking at cycles per samples, okay, I'm talking about this in the discrete frequency, cycles per sample. So now I can look at this. If I vary the frequency from 0 to pi, clearly you are seeing that the cyclical frequencies, okay, I'm choosing like this, 0, pi by 8, pi by 4, pi by 2, pi. And what happens to the same frequency in the cyclical form? This is discrete frequency, this is discrete frequency, this is angular, this is cyclical. I'm getting 0 for 0. Pi by 8 becomes 1 by 16. Why? Because you know that omega equal to 2 pi f. Therefore, f is equal to omega by 2 pi. Therefore, omega is equal to pi by 8 means f will become 1 by 16. So this will become 1 by 8, 1 by 4, 1 by 2. So the maximum frequency I can reach is pi. Therefore, the maximum cyclical frequency I can reach is 1 by 2. And the number of samples I can get is 16, 8, 4, 2. Can you see it clearly now? When you are operating at the maximum frequency, okay, the original signal waveform is 1 by 2. Okay, then the number of samples you can get for one cycle is going to be 2 samples. N is the number of samples you get for one cycle. The number of samples are more here. See here, 16, 8, 4, 2, gradually coming down. Period of the sinusoids. Period of the sinusoid means what? This n. The period is going to come down, decreases as the frequency increases. Okay. So, and you also can understand that, maybe I'll stop here, but take a look at this diagram. This diagram is key. So I am operating at the frequency 0 initially. I'm sampling. And then for the same sampling rate, I am now increasing the frequency. I am then increasing to pi by 4, pi by 2, pi. You can see the number of samples are getting increased. So here, initially how many samples you got? Each time period. It's going to be 16 samples you got. For a frequency of what? For a frequency of pi by 8. For pi by 8, how many samples I got? 16 samples. Here is pi by 8. I got 16 samples. Totally 16 samples. And for pi by 4, what is the number of samples I got per cycle? It's going to be 8 samples for each cycle. Each cycles, okay, you have to count that. For each cycle, it's going to be 8 samples. See here, one cycle is here. Count the number of samples. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Totally 8 samples. Here it is between one cycle, you see, between this to this. Sorry, it's totally 16 samples will be there. Here it is 8 samples. What's happening? The number of samples per cycle is coming down. That's a key point. When you increase the frequency, okay, time period is coming down. So here it's what's happening for pi by 2. For every sample, what I obtain? Look at this. It's going to be 4 samples and then 2 samples only. There will be 4 samples here. For this case, there will be 4 samples. 1, 2, 3, 4. But here, in this case, if you look at this, it's going to have only 2 samples. This is only this sample and this sample. That represents 1 by 2. But what happens to the frequency? The frequency has increased dramatically. Okay, up to pi, it has now increased. So this is the maximum oscillations I can get in the discrete domain. Okay, but afterwards, what's happening is for the same sampling rate, what happens? The number of samples are again going to, the frequency is going to go down. Look at this, number of samples are spreading out. So this frequency greater than pi is almost like this. That's why I said 2k pi, the signals may look the same. So now again I'm increasing the frequency from pi by 2, from pi to 2 pi I'm moving now. Okay, from pi to 2 pi. We keep increasing the frequency, the signals are again coming back again. See here, this frequency, this signal looks like this signal. It's replica, the same signal. And this signal, the 8 samples, 16 sample signals look like this. And then again, I'm coming back to this, the last one. This will look like this one. So anything greater than pi is now going to be like an aliasing problem. Aliasing means what? Two signals look alike. Okay, that problem I'm getting. Anything greater than pi. That's why I'm saying we need to operate between minus pi to pi. Okay. And 0 to pi is the range for cosine. Okay, cosine waveform, see here, it's going to repeat again. So look at this case. You take a look at this case again. Go through the book by Opanam-Milski about this particular case. Read it thoroughly. And if you have doubts, again come back next week. Next week we'll discuss again. I'll give you a set of problems on periodicity, and then step and inputs, ramp signals, and I'll be uploading tomorrow. Try to do the problems. Okay, submit it in a week. Okay, with that I'll stop today's class. Any doubts?